Okay, today is November 14th, 2022, and we are videotaping Ben Acoba, Benjamin Ballesteros Acoba, and he will talk about his life. Thank you.
Okay, so my name is really Benjamin Ballesteros Acoba, born in French Camp, California, the San Joaquin County General Hospital in 1937, April 13th. Okay, but I remember my parents when they first came, that they came on a boat with my father's old younger brothers and landed in Hawaii, or stayed in Hawaii, and my father and mother continued coming to the U.S., and the other brothers stayed in Hawaii.
Do you remember what year that was?
It must have been close to 1928.
So your mom and dad came as a couple
Yes.
to Hawaii. They were married in the Philippines.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how they did it, but...
Okay.
And then I remember talking about ending up in Lathrop, and in Lathrop, and they were clearing trees along the levee, San Joaquin River, on the Lima Road in Lathrop. And my mother always talked. She said, "Oh, we stayed in a chicken pen while we're there." And my oldest brother, Frank, was born there, and Betty was born there through a, I don't know, what do you call this? Through
Like a midwife?
a midwife, yeah. Then, I don't remember much from there, but I remember moving to the end of Ross Road, where we had a farm, tomatoes and stuff over there. And we'd have the Eno Santos and Danny, and a bunch of us would go out and pick tomatoes with them. And
They lived near you, the innocent?
They were in Stockton.
Okay.
They just came.
Okay.
We were good friends
Okay.
through the Trinity Church. And so Danny would always say, "Oh, we would go through and pick." They would pick their boxes, and we'd go pick fruit out of their boxes and fill our boxes. And we'd be. And then after that, I remember them talking about building a house, and they finally got right before the war, 1939 or somewhere in there, 40s. They built this house on Highway 50, close to Bowman Road, and that's when we had to put all the property under my brother's name because he was born here. They couldn't put it under my father's name. So that way the property that we have in French Camp or Lathrop area was under three brothers' names: Frank, Robert, and myself. And so so I remember when it was raining Christmas, going to French Camp's grammar school. I remember the first grade where Miss Lease was our teacher, and we'd have to sleep at noon or whatever. And then going on to the next grades, and
Which school was this?
French Camp Grammar School. And it was just one big building in a row. And so the teachers would try to teach me how to cut, and I was cutting with my left hand with the scissors, and she tried to switch me. But I was writing with my right hand and cutting with my left hand. And she kept trying to switch. I said, so I tried that, and it wouldn't work, and so I went back the other way. And so it was funny because she was always trying to make me cut with my right hand. I said, I can't do it.
But you were able to write with your right hand?
Yeah, right with my...
But she didn't want you to use your left hand to do the cutting?
Do the stronger stuff.
Okay. And so right now, are you left-handed or right-handed?
I write with my right, and I do a lot of stuff with my left.
Everything else,
yeah.
okay, you're kind of ambidextrous.
Yeah. So I'll, like I'm hammering or building something, it's always my left hand.
Okay.
Okay, finally, then in the cafeteria, they gave me these beans, I remember. These cut up beans and stuff. It was like boiled beans. And they tried to force that down me, and I said, no, I can't eat that. I don't want it. And so she says, oh, you gotta eat it, you gotta. So I ate a couple of them, and I threw up on her. And then they stopped that. So going all the way, and then I was always, we always had playgrounds or recesses in grammar school. They had a lot of fun.
Was there any kids that you met that there in school that are still your friends now?
From school?
From grammar school?
No, I haven't seen any of them.
Was the racial mix of the school?
Yes.
Was it
Yeah.
pretty well mixed?
Yeah. But after the war, this guy named Henry Sagawa, Japanese, and so we first came up, and he started talking to me, and we started talking, and then started fighting. And after that, we were best buddies. And so everybody would try to get between us, and they'd get beat up by both of us. And so we hung out together, and then this other kid was Danny Lavino. They farmed along the railroad tracks. And Henry we were all three together, good buddies. And when we got to the 8th grade, graduation time, they says, well, let's go to Manteca. Okay, we can go to Manteca. But I want to go to Edison, because we were split in between. We go either Edison or Manteca. And so my buddy said, man, you got to go to Edison. I said, no, we got to go to Manteca. And so after we graduated, then we went our own ways. They went to Manteca, and I went to Edison.
And you could choose at that time?
At that time, because we were on the dividing line.
Right on the line,
Yeah.
yes, okay.
And so I went to Edison because my sister went to Edison.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the family went to Manteca. So they graduated from Manteca, and I graduated from Edison. But Edison at the time was, you graduated you went to, what was it? They took the 7th and 8th, 9th and 10th.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you got a certificate on the 10th grade, then you went to Stockton College. And so all those friends from grammar school went the other way, and maybe a few of them came to Edison with me. But we never were really close at Edison. So I started hanging around with another group there. A lot of athletes, and Danny Nasanto was there. And so actually I was hanging around with more of the kids that went with me. It was Trinity Press with the church, because they were all in town there and went to school together. Then when I got to Stockton College, I ended up running around with the Japanese group.
Do you remember what year you went to Stockton College?
54 and 55. I graduated in 55. Edison was, what, 53, 52, 53. Yeah, because 52 I graduated from in the 8th grade grammar school. So and I remember that year because that's when my older brother got drafted into, when I graduated from 8th grade, my brother ended up going into the service in 50.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Frank and my Uncle
Yeah,
Albert, they
Albert,
they were in the Korean War together.
Yeah.
Different outfits, but they went in.
I could tell you that too about Albert. We were at some get-together in Stockton, and Albert said, "Oh, your brother worked in finance. He was payroll." And Albert said, "Yeah, I came off the lines and went down to get payroll, and I saw your brother, and he says, 'Come on in.' He said they had refrigerators full of beer and everything else set up." And so,
All right.
So they got together there and drank beer, and they took pay. He gave him his payroll, and he had to go back online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I never even knew. Frank never talked about that. Okay, get back to Delta College or Stockton College. Now I took all auto shop, body and fender, auto shop, mechanics, and got my diploma there. Went back, did my it says 2 years of 2 years of college, got my AA, and then I was going to go back some more just to be like everybody else is as a career student. And then I got the letter, Uncle Sam wants you.
So you were in school when you
well,
got the letter?
Well, I wasn't going full time,
Okay.
and so I got says congratulations, report to the bus station.
Okay. Wait, let me ask you a question. You took all auto shop and those kinds of classes?
Yeah.
Was that something that you had a real interest in, or how did you end up in those types
Well,
of classes?
Well, I worked on when I was on the farm. I was always working on the tractors and all the trucks and stuff
Okay.
to keep them running. And so I decided, well, I might as well be a mechanic,
Okay.
What year did the draft letter come?
1958
You got
or
drafted.
57.
Okay.
Where did you end up?
Well, okay, I got drafted. I did my basic training at Fort Ord in Monterey. And then I went to Fort Sam, Houston for medical training. So I ended up as a medical corpsman.
Oh. And how did that happen?
I don't know.
You don't know. You just all of a sudden it
All of a
was like,
sudden they
this
said-
is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Huh? Okay.
Because after basic training, they said, well, you're going to go to Fort Sam, Houston. They gave all the people all the list where they're going. And I says, what's Fort Sam, Houston? So you'll find out when you get there.
Ah,
So they marched us up to the airplane in Monterey, got on the airplane, and it took off. I looked out the window and I said, it's going the wrong way. We're going over the ocean. I said, we're going, and then all of a sudden made a turn. It turned out, and then all I seen was land. One side you see desert, the other side you see mountains with snow on it. And I said, what the heck, where the heck are we? I was sort of lost, and then they finally landed in San Antonio at the airport, and got on the bus, and it says, okay, you get to the back. What? Get back farther. Okay. So I sat with the other people who came with me that were going Fort San Houston, and we sat in the back. I didn't know anything. And then they said, oh, we're going to go to a restaurant and eat before we get to, and so I got into a restaurant, and it says, colored people to the back. Go over there. And I said, what's all this stuff up here? I didn't know that you were white and colored. I said, where do I go then? They said, you go over there with those guys. I never dealt with that before.
Yes.
And so San Antonio, Texas was that way.
Uh-huh.
And so finally got to Fort Sam, and they gave us our stuff where we go to bunk bed and everything else. And the one thing I remember when I got there and we went to bed, I got in the bed and I said, who in the heck threw water in my bed? Because it's so humid there. The humidity, I'm not used to humidity,
yes.
so everything was sticky.
Yes.
And so, going through basic there, we did all our things. They sent me to dental school, and I didn't like that. And then, okay, you're going to be a corpsman. I said, what's that? He says, you just bedpan nurse. Yeah. And so I ended up going through the school and everything, and everybody's all the way through through that training. Everybody's half asleep anyway, and ended up had to give shots to each other, how you gave shots and this and that. So I said, okay, that's fine, And you're supposed to give a shot to your buddy next to you, and he says, you look like you were crying, trying to give me a shot. I said, well, then finally, I finally gave my first shot to someone, and that was a deal, being a medic, trying to give shots and checking them out and everything else. And then we went out on, we'd go out at nights, and I just seen all these things flying around. These flies, they would light up.
Oh, yeah.
I never seen anything like
Yeah.
that. These
Fireflies?
fireflies.
Yes.
I said, God, this is something I never seen fireflies. You see them go flying around and the lights shining and everything.
Wow.
And then, so, got back to the barracks, and this one guy went to bed, and I says, what the heck's wrong with my sheet? Somebody short-sheeted me.
Oh.
And so I got that, and then the other guy, the next night, the guy jumped to his bed. He threw a prairie dog in his bunk. So he jumped in bed and hit the dog. So prairie dogs are real small. So anyway,
Oh,
that's
gosh.
that. And so after I got through with that training, I ended up in Fort Hood, Texas, in the middle of nowhere. That's and then the sergeants kept crying, re-up. I'll give you $1,200 cash if you want to re-up right now. Sign for another 3 years. I said, no.
Yeah.
He said, you don't want to go to Hawaii? I said, I want to go to Hawaii, but he says, you want to re-up? I'll send you to Hawaii. I said, no. I said, I want to get out of here. And so every time, then I met this Sergeant Ruliejo, a Filipino, real short Filipino sergeant. He just came back from Germany or wherever. And he says, okay, you're Filipino, I'll come on over to the house and I'll feed you. So, and then, so it'd come out where I'd go over to the house and best buddies, you know, and I'd have to go on guard duty. And the other guy says, oh, you got it made because he's going to be your sergeant of the guards, so he's going to inspect you, so you don't have to worry, you're going to be the super guard, the one that has to just wait and see. And so I'd be getting all my stuff ready, shining shoes, get everything all planned up. And I get up there and he'd ask me all these questions, and we had this book that we studied all the way through that you had to remember. I can't remember what. the Soldier's Almanac or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And so he gave me all those questions. I answered everything right and stood everything and saluted right. This guy's okay. You're the super. You're the garden. You're the super. You don't have to go march.
Oh.
You can go. You don't have to go on post or anything else. You're the alternate. And so, a couple of times I had the wrong sergeant or wrong guard. I had to do my marching and walk around the thing. So I was one. I guess I was lucky because I was in peacetime. I didn't have to go into really war. Going back to Fort Ord, we had a big what do you call it, inspection, where everybody had to lay out their thing on the lawn and do a march. I remember that part. But they picked about 10 people out to go as a survey up in the hills for the whole weekend. And that was part of our basic training. And so we got out, took our stuff, went out in the hills somewhere, and they gave us a pill. I don't know what the pill was. Nobody knew. So we were out, I guess we were sort of like what do you call them? A monkey or whatever, a test for some sort of...
Guinea pig.
Yeah, a guinea pig. We were a guinea pig for testing some pill. And we never knew what it was. So I don't know. I don't know what became of it. Nothing happened. We came back and all those guys, where were you guys? I said, well, they took us out to the hills and we spent the weekend. You know. But we were used as a guinea pig before we didn't know. We were just ordered to do. We did what we had to do. Okay, now back to Fort Hood. The sergeant would treat me as his son. He had his family, he had his kids, little kids running around, and his wife, and this and that. And so then we had another sergeant from another outfit that came around, and him and his wife and his kids. And so I'd go weekends, I'd stay at his house and drive them around. I'd be like a chauffeur for him. But I didn't care. I got off base and got to eat Filipino food and everything else.
Yeah.
And so that's most of the Army, that part. Then I finally got released, got my discharge, and discharge, or not discharge, but your transfer paper, and they gave us money or flying out cash and everything. And so this other guy in my outfit was from Los Angeles, and he says, yeah, we're going to go back to LA and then I'll take you back to Stockton. And so we had his car, he had his car. I wanted to get a car, but I never did do it. So he got his car, and we loaded everything up and on top of his car and all our duffel bags and everything else all packed. And so we came back to Stockton. We hit the border and the guys looked at us and we put up our discharge, our transfer paper and everything and looked on top and saw our bags up there. Go on. Instead of, that was that, before they used to stop you and go through everything.
Hmm.
But they looked at us, we showed our discharge papers and they just lined us on. And I got to his place and stayed overnight in LA and then they drove me back to Stockton.
Mm.
And
Was your family glad to see you?
oh yeah, I'm glad to
So
back
that
home.
would put you about what year when you returned to Stockton?
Oh, 1960.
60, yeah. Okay. And your
Yeah.
family was still in
Oh, yeah,
Lathrop?
they're still late. The house is still there.
Okay.
And so I got back here, and I think Cecil and them and the family there, the FYA people had a big party or something.
All right.
And they were at one of the dance halls. And so I got changed real quick and went over. That, that's it for, until I got back, went to church,
Mm.
and they had the new building all set up over there. Which, and they,
Well, I was wondering, how did you meet Val?
okay, and then, because Letty Perez, Lily Bertolman, and her husband worked out at Sharps. And Letty and Lily worked for personnel out at Sharps. When I came out of service, I was looking, I was going bowling, looking for jobs, to walk around and make sure they sign our papers so we can get our unemployment. And finally Lily and Bridget, go out there and sign up. So I went over personnel and Lily says, fill this out, fill the paperwork out. And we finally got in. So I got to working out at Sharks about, let's see, 62, 62 or 60, 1963. I started working out at Sharks. And then I got this, I was supposed to go into the reserves, and the sergeants kept coming out and said, sign this. You got to go 2 more reserves time. You need to go. We have to go to summer camp, this and that. And I got a big lump in my neck. And so I went down to the doctor, and they took that lump out and had it tested. And it was TB, local TB. So it wasn't, I still had to take the shots and everything for that, but it wasn't contagious because it was local. And they took out the knot and had it draining. And so when I went back, I had to go back, when I went back to Sharp, and they said, well, you can go, you can work for Tracy. It was a Tracy, they put me to Tracy. They says, you can come to work and then go get your shots and come to work, get your shots. And then finally they said, oh, we got the shots here in the dispensary, so you don't have to leave the base. We'll give you your shots here. So I was over in Tracy doing warehousing and stuff like that, worked. Then I found out they finally there's an opening for a mechanic here at Sharps. So I filed for send in paperwork for that and got back to Sharps as a mechanic helper. And then they started cutting back on that, so I ended up in the print shop doing Xerox machine work and printing on printing press. And then did that, and then they wanted to get rid of me, so they trying to get rid of the Xerox operator.
Mhm.
And someone's gonna take my job, so and they said, well, maybe you have to, they saw your record on doing the Xerox, and the guy says he's faster than you, so I went fast doing a lot of Xerox, getting it all done, and then I had to do some other work, but still they took it away from me, and I ended up in the carpenter shop as a carpenter.
Oh, okay.
That's how I did the rest of my time. And doing the carpenter work, the roof jobs and everything else. And then they gave me they finally upped me to a preventive maintenance, a higher pay. So we go around and inspect the buildings and repair the buildings out of sharps. And a lot of times, you'd sit down, you go to the coffee room and we inspected the coffee room and end up staying there for a long time. But everything we did, we had to label our work as we did everything. Change the light bulbs, check the toilets, check the fans, check all the doors, make sure everything's working right. And then the guy that was doing all the locksmith jobs, he retired. And they sent me to locksmith school to learn a little bit of locks. And so I was a head lock person. And then came along, they wanted somebody else to do it, and I said, well. So they put me back into the shop doing the maintenance again. And that guy would come out and wanted me to do locksmiths again. And so they had the paperwork come out that said early retirement. And I said, hey, I gotta go for that because I got over 30 years in the government. So, okay, back a little bit. That's where I met her as a summer hire.
She was a summer hire?
Yeah, she came in doing the maintenance as a summer hire, and that's how I met her.
What year was that?
1970.
1970? She
Yeah.
was a summer hire?
Yeah.
Okay.
They just got out of college.
Yeah. And so I said, oh, what the heck, let's see if she wants to go out with me. Okay. So that led to that. And we ended up getting married in, 72? 72, right?
1972, you were married?
Glenn was born in 72. We were married in 70.
71.
71.
71. Yeah. And then we had a daughter in 72. Then
And you have how many children?
to her one.
Okay.
We have a daughter, and from his first wife, he has two. And one passed away.
Okay.
To my first wife, I had 2 boys. One, and they're in Texas. One passed away in an auto accident, and the other one's still there in Texas.
In Texas?
Texas, yeah.
Okay.
They're in Sherman? Is it Sherman, Texas? Yeah. And the son's wife, they have a store, what do you call
They have a thrift store.
thrift store. It's a little used thrift store. They just bought a building bigger than this house, so
Wow.
to store stuff.
And you have grandchildren also?
Yes, I have 2 granddaughters through our daughter.
Okay.
They're there. And the son has,
He had 2 kids.
he had 2 kids. And his daughter.
And both kids are still married. Both of the grandkids are married.
Yeah.
See, that's why I'm not going in there because I won't let him talk.
Okay.
So you said after 30 years in government service, you're over at Sharps, and you're
I know it's over 30 years, and they had early out.
yeah.
They came out with paperwork saying anybody wants to try to get out early. So I filled that paperwork out, and it comes out to be that I had lived my service time and everything. I had 34 years. And so they had meetings and stuff like that. And this guy from Tracy came, we had meetings with him. And my buddy was sitting next to me, and he says, and this guy comes out, I'm going, man, I got 32 years, man, nobody's got that. And my buddy looked at him, he says, he's got 34. And so his face went through it. His face dropped down, and he said, he wanted to go out so bad. But I beat him out.
Okay.
And so after that, I was retired. She was still working. So I'd go to the school. She was still at Stag at the time, my first couple of years. Then she was at Stag. I'd go over there and bring her lunch and check. We got a canning machine there. I'd go check the canning machine at Stag and fill it up for her. And then later on she got transferred, got to Edison. Our daughter graduated from Stag. So she got transferred to Edison.
But I really, really, really like teaching at Edison.
And
Yeah.
Benny would come and help.
Oh, yeah, Benny
I
would
was-
always come and help.
Yeah, I retired, and I would be working in the theater building sets
Oh,
while
okay.
she was teaching the theater class.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's how, We got
Using
the
your
thing.
skills,
Yeah.
huh? Yeah.
Right.
and so I'd walk around there at Edison.
They thought he was a teacher.
They thought I was a teacher there, so they'd let me go anywhere I wanted.
Yeah, it was.
Because you were there so much.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
One of the custodians, I started doing part-time custodian there, and one of the custodian, what was his name? I can't think of his name, but he says, you wanna, I'd be out there working in the theater, he'd come and look for me, he says, you wanna work tonight? I said, yeah, okay, yeah. So I was part-time, and he would give me a job just doing custodian. He said, clean up, do what you know. And so I got to do almost what I wanted to get at.
So you had a second career at Edison
Yes,
High
he
School,
did.
didn't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
in high school doing.
And we had awesome students. Aldrich Sabak was one of my students.
Yeah.
Brian Batugo was one of my students.
Okay.
And you know, a lot of these kids of color, they don't see teachers of color, particularly in high school.
No.
So,
Yeah.
a lot of auntie-uncle
Yeah.
type of stuff.
It was important that you were there for them.
That's why
Yeah.
I liked Stockton schools, because I felt
Yeah.
I was
We were.
doing something for them. We were like aunties and uncles and stuff like
Yes,
that.
absolutely. Yeah.
And then we did. Then they had summer theaters in the park.
WorkNet, it was WorkNet
Work-
program.
through
I
WorkNet.
did 5 WorkNet programs. Let's see, I did The Wiz, Oklahoma, Cinderella,
King and I.
King and I. I was a choreographer because I taught a lot of dance. Oh, I'm missing one. Grease. Yes. Grease. And they hired Ben to
Chuck.
help with the construction.
I
Set
would oversee the construction of the sets because they had to hire the kids to build sets, and I drove the truck.
Because it moved, the parks moved from park to park. They don't do that now. It's probably kind of dangerous, you know? And
So-
insurance would be
So it seems though, like all of the, you started out in Lathrop,
Yeah.
working on the tractors and working
Yeah,
in the
and
fields
farm,
and
yeah.
so forth. And then you go into these armed services and into the military, and a lot of that continued. A lot of those
Yeah.
skills continued,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then now you go to Edison with your wife
Mm.
after you retire, and you still have that, you're still using those skills
Yeah, yeah.
that came through before.
He's the handy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also at the Chinese cemetery.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're
Yes.
out there
Yes.
doing all that maintenance.
Tractor,
Yeah,
the
tractor,
tractor
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I'm
And
still,
when
I
they had
still
to
do
buy
a
a
lot of
tractor,
farming. Yeah.
He's the one that knows about tractors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I left out a lot of the farming that I did before going into service. I did all the farm
on
on the farm. Yeah.
on the farm.
yeah, he picked stuff.
Was that all of you, or were you the one brother or sister that did
We-
most of that?
most of
that
us-
took to it.
Most of us worked out in the fields,
Okay.
and then the younger sisters didn't have to.
And Linda didn't have to.
Linda and Kathy
Joy?
didn't have to.
They didn't have to.
No.
Because
Betty and Mary and Robert and I and Frankie were mostly working on the farm.
okay.
So what was your typical day working on the farm? When would you get up? What was your routine?
My routine on the farm? Okay. During the time my father was going to market, to the farmer's market on Wilson Way, we would go out and bunch carrots, radish, whatever we had, and they'd get orders from the grocery stores. And we'd get the vegetables, bunch them up and everything. We had a big wash house out there, or a big tank that we used to throw all our vegetables after we spray them with water, get the mud off and dirt, and then we'd throw them in the tank. Then we'd bend over with a brush and be brushing the carrots so they shine, or the turnips or whatever. Then we'd take them out and store them, and then we'd spray them again with the pressure washer directly from the pump. And we'd let them dry, and then we'd load them on the trucks for market. Then my dad would go to the market 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock. Sometimes we'd go out with him and to the market, but when we were not going during the weekend, when we were not going to school. And so we'd go there and sit on the truck and sell. People would come in, buy vegetables, return, nickel, dimes, whatever it was at the time.
So then that was on the weekends that you did the farmer's market and then delivery?
No,
to,
he did. My dad did every day.
Every day he did
Yeah,
that? He delivered to the stores and...
They'd pick up. The stores would come and pick up
Okay.
at the market. They had a big place in back where they parked the
So
trucks.
you would go to school in the morning,
Yeah,
right? And then come home
And
and
we-
help prepare
yeah,
for the delivery?
yeah.
Okay.
And then we had a bath house. I remember we didn't have any indoor bathrooms or whatever. We had an outhouse in the back, a little bath house out there where we had to heat the water, make a fire under the tank where the water was, so we'd have some hot water to bathe in. But it was all just pan. Once in a while I tried to get in things, I broke. I broke in the bed.
Was that your job?
Huh?
Was that one of your jobs?
One of my jobs was to heat the water,
Okay,
get the wood, throw it under there, throw kerosene in there and light the fire.
okay.
And make sure we had bath water for all of us to take a bath in. And
Was it just your family out on the farm, or did you have like a bunkhouse with guys?
Well, there's our family, and we had the guys that did work with us were relatives that came over with my dad. And one of them was my uncle. He's one of them. And then after all the other relatives got drafted for World War II, and then when they came back, we had the house set up where we had a basement. And so they would come for their on leave, and we'd have a basement for them to stay in. And then when they did come home, they stayed in the basement until they could find somewhere to live.
How many acres did
We
you
only
have?
had, it was a little over 5 acres there.
5 acres.
Yeah.
That's big though, if you,
Yeah, it's-
Working it.
Yeah,
yeah,
that provided for us.
yeah.
And then,
Do you remember when you got water inside the house?
oh, we got water in the house. There was pipe, because we had the pump out there.
Okay,
Yeah, I remember having to get coal, fire oil, kerosene to put in the stove to keep the house warm.
okay.
We had to get it from outside, bring it in, fill our tank in the house to keep the house warm. And then they finally came out with butane. So a big tank out there, and then they
Yeah.
piped that in, then it worked all the stoves.
Yes.
Freezer, I remember having to get ice, put in the freezer, these chunks, big chunks of ice. And then finally we got refrigerators. And washing machine, my mom had that old washing machine, then the wringer.
had to-
Finally we got modern. She said, oh, there's that new washing machine came out with the tongue, it was inside, but it'll turn this way.
Yeah.
So they said, you have to get a base on it, it's a cement base. So they came out and got a cement base, and then they got that washer, and they had to bolt it down so it wouldn't fall off, because the cycle would knock it off. So my mom wanted everything modern. She always wanted everything modern. So whenever something new come up, she would always get something.
So when did you get like an indoor bathroom?
That, I don't remember right. It must have been in the 50s, because they built the indoor bathroom, and they had a tub with legs on it. And we built the garage with a separate room, so that when you come in from the fields, we would take a bath out there, shower in the bathtub and everything else. And that was probably 50s, 48s or something like that. And that was ours. The boys, we'd have to go out the house, into the garage, into our bathroom, take a shower, or the toilet was out there too. And the water would go right into our septic tank that was out there, or it'd run out in the field. Nobody worried about it at the time.
Yes.
And so I remember that part. And I was still using it when I came from the service.
You remember an awful lot.
Okay.
Those hard days.
I mean, when you think back about all those times on the farm and doing the vegetables and going to the outhouse and all of that, how do you feel when you think about that?
It was hard. I mean, it was hard, but stuff we had to do, and we were, at the time there was nothing mechanical at the time. We would grate onions with a pickup stand that we built to grate onions, and we'd have big onions on. So we'd have to go through, pick up, big onions, put them on the side sack, and the other ones go down to the medium. And then we wanted to move, everybody grabbed a side and carried it forward. And then we got modern, they put on a sled. They put on a sled, so we got a tractor, and they bought a tractor, so we could pull it with a tractor.
Okay.
And then after that, we got the motorized machine, which everybody used. They'd borrow it, and everybody used that for their farms. We'd have to tow it from farm to farm. And so another part was they'd have to, when they made the lines before the tractors, we had a horse and a cultivator. And so we had got the horse hooked up, and we'd made the lines. And then they built something to smoothen up the lines. And so we took that on, and then we'd have to sit on that thing for weight with the kids behind the horse. So you had to look out for what. And so the kids would be on, we'd stand on that thing or sit on it while the horse drew. Then they'd get to the line, they'd get off, and they'd turn it around and
Get back on.
get back on. And the horse was used all the time. It was part of us growing up. Go out and feed the horse. And go out and feed the chickens or whatever. Go get eggs. Go look for the eggs. Oh, the chickens got out there in the barn. So you go in the barn and look all through the hay that we've built, took for the eggs in the barn. And it was, and as I got older, then the trucks came, tractors came. And so after we get through sacking the onions, one guy would be sewing sacks, and he had to be fast because you get paid so many cents a sack. And then the trucks came out, and for a while there I'd had lifts, I was still younger, but then I think I did it a little bit after the service, or right before I went into service. I would just grab by the ears and just throw it on the truck. It was that fit at the time with Buster and my brother, and sometimes Marino Ballantalk would come and help us. Eugene, we worked on, they had a farm down there, and we'd all work together. And we'd load the truck up, stack it. And so one way was stacked where we bring it to the rail cars. So, and we unloaded it, put in train cars, and it was in trench camp. They had all the cars set up there, and we'd bring truckloads of onions out there, maybe 200 sacks at a time. And then we'd go back and get some more out of the field. And then after that, the prices went down, so we had my dad says, oh, they got an outlet in Monterey. And then the other guy said, we had an outlet in San Francisco. So we had to load the truck up, but you had you had to stack it where they interlock each other. It's a different type of loading. So you'd go one way and another way, so the sacks would interlock, and so they wouldn't fall off. And so we'd load the truck up and drove to Monterey. And my mom, she said, oh, you're driving too fast, slow down.
So this is when you'd have to drive to Monterey or San Francisco.
Yeah.
What age were you then when that started?
Oh, that was before I went in the service.
Oh, okay. All right. So then when you came back from the service, did you work on the farm again for a while?
I worked some on the farm, yeah.
Okay.
But I'd worked whenever I had time.
Okay.
Because I had
And then you went to Sharps?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And
Tracy first.
yeah, Tracy was first.
Tracy was first, and
Yeah.
then Sharps.
Sharps.
And,
Yeah.
okay.
But all that time, but still, had to work delivering stuff and all. Just, yeah, there's that picture of that's that picture of our family without the kids.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about being on the farm with your dad? What is a lesson learned from that time? If you, or what is your most memorable? What's your favorite memory from being on the farm?
Well, there was, my father never really told us how. He just showed us, and he didn't really force us into it. I went along and just did what they were doing, and he'd tell you how to do it, and I'd do what he says.
So everybody just really kind of contributed to
we
that
all,
farm.
Yeah, we just all
You
continued.
all worked. Okay.
Yeah. But
And then then as you went on to your military time, were there some lessons learned there?
yeah,
Life lessons.
yeah, just life lessons, and just do. They told you what to do. You were told what to
again,
do, and that's
okay.
what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
But you had to remember that when you dress up, you had to be sharp
Mm-hmm.
and obey your obey your officers, which I didn't, because all these when I saw all these young lieutenants come in, the second lieutenants right out of school, we would walk by them and we'd salute them with our left hands, and they'd salute with their left hands and kept walking. Because we knew who they were. They were all green.
Okay.
And so they didn't know the difference.
Okay. All right.
And
And you and Val are known for so much giving back to the community.
We're known for causing trouble.
yeah, we walk in places now. What are you guys doing now? What trouble are you guys gonna do now? But anyway. So-
You mentioned when you went to Texas and you saw all the segregation, and it was new to you.
Yeah.
Was there any? Because you didn't see that in Stockton,
No.
You guys didn't
I didn't.
feel that being, all the, how they always talk about discrimination and
Yeah.
racism and stuff.
Weren't you
No.
kind of isolated, huh?
No, we were sort of, we were out on the farm, so we never.
Yeah.
I remember when we came into town, and we went grocery shopping or went out. We were gonna eat, and my mom, we parked the car. I forget, it's right there on Center Street, next to the old used to be Manila garage, and there was this black woman playing a guitar or something, and my mom says, "Watch the car while we go out," and she says, "Okay, yeah." So we went out and stuff, and she watched the car. She didn't. Nothing happened to it. And I don't know if they gave her anything for it, but I don't remember. I just remember my mom saying, "Watch our car."
So you don't, as Terry was saying, you don't remember any separate. You were out on the farm,
Yeah,
so
but
you
when
guys
I-
were kind of isolated from what was going on in town.
In town, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But we remember that we went to town. When we did come into town, we stayed on right there in old Manila area.
Little Manila
Yeah.
and El Dorado.
El Dorado,
Okay.
right next to the church.
Okay.
We'd park there. My dad, we'd go up to either Laksam, Canton Lo, or there's a little restaurant next to the corner there. There was an old bar with swinging doors. The old saloon on the corner, and then next to it was New China, and we used to eat there. But you could look in the window and see eating, and we always ate there until then. Then the other restaurant came in. Not Canton, but
You said not Ganshai.
Ganchai.
Ganshai came.
Ganchai came in on the other side on El Dorado,
Okay.
and so we started eating there.
See, I don't remember it there.
Yeah,
I remember when
at
it
the
moved.
at
Yeah.
the bus station.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. That's where I said goodbye to my mom and said, "Come pick me up when I get back tonight." Then, so all my brothers, they went in when they went in the service. They went for physical. Then we picked them up, brought them home. Me, I went in for physical, and then I went straight to Fort Ord. So, so I had to call for Fort Ord. I said, "I guess I'm not coming home."
Oh, you were expecting to come home.
Yeah,
huh?
that's
Yeah.
like everybody else. They go for physical and come
Yeah.
home, but I
Yeah.
didn't come home. So that
Yes, you were special.
that was that old bus station,
Yeah. Yeah.
Ganchai. Yeah, but that's where we hung out. The Presbyterian church used to be right there downtown, where San Joaquin is, that thing. That used to be Trinity Presbyterian Church.
So you and your family were involved in the church from.
Yeah, my mom and dad were part of it when they first started.
Oh, okay, on San Joaquin. Yeah.
And Mr. Legary, or Reverend Legary, used to come out and pick us up in his car, and he'd come to pick up us, the Ball and Talks, and some other kids I can't remember. And he had the car set up where he took out the back seat and put in the bench seat, 2 bench seats
Oh
in
my.
the back, where we would sit in. There's a carload of kids, just like a bus, I guess.
No seatbelts then.
No, no. So he'd come out to the farm, pick us up, and bring us home after church. And my father would be out there working on the farm, and so after we get through with church, then we'd change and go out in the fields and work.
Well,
Yeah. And that was most lessons is that you want anything, you get it done, you do with your dad. I remember one time we had a party in high school, I guess, and I stayed out real late. And my dad got up, went out and started doing stuff out there in the farm. And then I finally woke up and went out and he said, "Go back home, go sleep. You sleep all day, go back to sleep." So I says, that's it. That's where my lesson was. Don't oversleep.
don't oversleep.
Do you remember what your first paid job was? The first time you got paid for doing a job? And how much was it?
First get paid.
Was it
Well,
something to do with it in the fields, like when you
okay.
filled a box, a bag, or something? Or
Oh yeah, before we went, they were picking my cousins. Before I went in the service, they were picking pears. My cousins came. He says, "Oh yes, go pick pears. It's good. We stay out there at the pear camp and we pick pears. Okay, try it. And it was fun. They fed us, and they gave us money. Then we end up in Walnut Grove, going to the pool hall or anything, and But I didn't know that Lock was close by, or unless I would have gone to Lock.
Oh, yeah.
Lock was the gambling area. And my cousin at Fil-Ams, he got out of the Marines before I was. And so he got this big 98 Oldsmobile, and he'd drive us all around. And he'd always wanted to go to Isleton. I didn't know it was there. I guess he wanted to gamble up there. And so there was nothing out in this side of town on this side. So once you get on past the bridge on Pacific Avenue and past UOP, it was all,
Fields.
he'd stop the car, he said, "You drive." I wasn't even old enough to drive then. I didn't have a license, so I was only maybe 14, 15. So I drive, go up. I went to the bridge, went in Ogden, and then I finally drive back. Then he took over, and that's how I love it though. Before that, I drove the tractor out in the fields. I learned that before but he let me drive his car. I said, oh, okay. And so that was a real good part of him. And then I'd go pick pears with him, and went a couple of times there, and then they finally caught on to us. He says, we work together, you get paid so they don't take any taxes out. But they didn't work it that way. We got paid separately. And so he'd go out and he'd say, there's no pears on tomorrow's fields. Let's go home. So he didn't want to work because it didn't look like a good crop to make money on. Good enough to make any money. So we went home. And then we come back the next day. And we do that a couple of times, and he finally got mad. He says, you guys got to stay in.
So that was during your high school days. You were about 14 or so.
Yeah.
Did you participate in any activities in high school when you were at Edison or
Edison,
Stockton College?
I did basketball, B team basketball, and track.
Okay.
Then I tried football, and the coach looked at me, no, you're too small for football. You get the kill.
Were you involved in any of the area, the Filipino youth basketball teams or any of those sports teams?
Yeah, we got the Cecil was FYA. My brother was in the Padres, and we started ours with Ben Gonzalez, UFY, United Filipino Youth Group, and we had the tall guy Marvin Amazon.
He's the tall guy?
Marvin Amazon was our tallest guy. He was a mixture, Filipino mixture from Oakdale with Dave, his brother Dave.
Okay.
And so with the United Filipino Youth, we were a good team. We got trophies all the time.
All right.
We would.
And you traveled? Did your team travel?
Yeah, we went to not Swings, but Vallejo, Rio Vista. What's the other one up there? By Castle Air Force Base.
Gosh.
Yeah. What's that town? Where's the cemetery? Or not the cemetery, but the what's his name? Up there in there by the towards Merced anyway.
There's Fresno, Bakersfield,
This way more.
Livingston.
Livingston.
Okay.
Livingston. So we had traveled, and sometimes we'd go to the dance. Livingston, I remember, because I had my license and I was driving.
Oh my.
That was in 1957. And I remember all these guys would say, oh, man, they'd be drinking and, and everything else. I said, I gotta go check the car. And they knew I had a bottle in the car somewhere. So I'd be running around, and I'd go back and forth to the car and went back to the dance, and everybody knew what I was doing. Yeah. So anyway, I was lucky I made it home. So.
What do you remember? What was your first car that you bought?
I didn't buy it. I got a 1941 Chevrolet convertible.
Convertible?
My brother had that, and I wish I still had it. Yeah, my brother, I had that 41, and I took that, drove it to school and everything. I even had it when I was going to Stockton College. They kept that car. Then my brother came back, and he wanted to trade it in when he came out from the service. But that 41, it was we wanted to make some noise, so we changed the mufflers, and I put 2 pipes on it and cut the manifold so it split, so the noise, and then I says I couldn't afford the tailpipes, so what I did, I got out and got my irrigation pipes that we were bent on the farm, and I put those on the car and used baling wire to wire everything together so it would hold it up in place. And so that's
And
what
it
I
worked,
had.
huh?
And that was my exhaust system.
All right.
Baling wire and irrigation pipes.
You are handy.
And
Val said.
so when I go down, when I take off, you could hear me 2 blocks away.
Here comes Benny. Wow.
I know that at Stockton College, I guess, they had the auto
Yeah.
repair, whatever. My uncle would say when he wanted to do a paint job on his car, he'd do it there in that class because that was one of the things you had to learn.
Yeah.
So he said every guy would bring their car in and
Yeah.
change the
Get it
paint
painted.
color
Yeah.
for free.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the way I was, you know. They teach us how to weld, how to knock the dents out and everything. So I wanted to get rid of that, make the trunk lid. So molded all that in, welded it up and covered it up and painted the back same color as the car because the car was just painted. So they got the same color. And then I said, okay, now I gotta find some way to lock the trunk. Because the trunk was so heavy anyway, it just sits down. And so I had no way to lock it. I was trying to figure out a way so I do it just like the hood, but I never got around to it. My brother got rid of it. There was another car that was, I guess, was left by the Japanese that when they went to concentration camp, when we went to camp. They were good friends of my dad's, and they said, bring the truck over and load all our stuff and store it for us. So I remember the truck being loaded, and they put it in our barn on the farm. And so I just remember all this. I don't know where it came from. So at the time I was only kids, and younger. And so I'd go in there, and I'd seen all these baseballs and mitts and stuff. And we came out playing baseball. We had our mitts and all kind of stuff. And they said, no, I don't touch that. It belongs to so, now too late. Now we're playing with it,
Yeah.
And then finally after the war, when they came back, or they never came back.
Oh.
And so we were looking for them. We were trying to find out where they were. We found out that part of the family was in L.A. And so we went to L.A. My dad says, oh, we go to L.A., we go see it. How they
How
were.
nice of him.
We saw them in L.A. and we says, you got a lot of your stuff there?
Yeah.
They said, well, just throw it away. So a lot of good stuff we threw away. That old sewing machines and stuff like that, probably antique now, but this went in the garbage.
Well, that was really something, though, that your father went all the way to
Yeah,
LA.
yeah, we went on vacation too. So.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but we were trying to find them, so.
yeah, that was very
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
So, but we just dumped it.
Yeah.
And they had an old Model T car back there, and I said, okay, we're gonna leave it there. When I get out of service, I come back and put it back together, work on it. So when I came back, it was gone. He sold it. Dad sold it. He's taking it.
Is there anything else that you'd like to, impart upon the world?
No, it's but I was just happy that I missed Vietnam. I got out before Vietnam started. and I'm still a vet, but still, I'm not,
Active
Didn't
service.
have to experience
didn't
that,
have to
yeah.
experience. If I would have signed up that next 3 years, I would have
You
been
would have been, wow.
And so now I'm happily married, working, doing community stuff, some community stuff.
That you,
A lot
you
of
seem
community
to
service.
enjoy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we enjoy it. And sometimes I think it's too much because I can't get
You guys get cupcakes.
because I
Oh.
because I can't get to my gambling.
Well, that's, I mean, but I see, like, the things that you talked about, how your father, especially when father went and looked for the
Yes.
Japanese family, I see now why that you are so involved in a lot of this community service and giving back to the church, giving back to the Chinese church too,
Yeah.
and I mean,
Yeah,
Just caring
I
about
see
people, yeah.
how your life was shaped, you know,
Yes,
so,
yeah,
Oh,
and everybody, your family all working together
yeah.
for the farm, for the family, and so, yeah. You just continued all that.
I'm making cupcakes for rehearsals.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
So these are turkey cupcakes. These are my turkeys.
those are beautiful. I have to go and pick up my
Okay.
sister.
Well, thank you, Benny,
Yeah.
and thank you very much.